Hi, this is Jim Gibson with CableSupply.com, and this is our second installment in our telecommunications series. We're going to go back to our little illustration with that little sad-looking house. Person lives there is a sad sack. Goes up to the telephone pole, and then goes to the CO. You know, it's really interesting now. A lot of times people look at telephone poles and they see those wires way up at the top and they say, oh, that's the telephone wires. That's not telephone wires. Telephone wires aren't at the top. So if I drew this correctly, the telephone wires are lower. So the current, you know, your house current, your voltages that run things are at the top of a telephone pole. Your telephone transmission lines themselves are halfway down the pole or a distance away from. So these are relatively safe. You got low voltage here. In some cases it's a little high for certain circuits. But overall, telephone voltage is 24-48 volts DC in that error and that size. So it's nothing to really be concerned about. And that's why it's lower on the pole. So if you're, you know, if the guy's out there and he's working on telephone lines, he's not accidentally touching, you know, the high power lines or the house lines. But anyway, these telephones, by the way, are called POTS lines. I call them CO lines. A lot of people call them POTS lines. Yes, you're going to laugh at this, okay? Plain old telephone service. That's what POTS stands for, and people use that. I'll hear someone say in a business, they'll say, order me some more POTS lines. Okay, it says actually a CO line. Is it going to be loop start? Is it going to be PRI? Is it going to be a T1? This is very general POTS lines, but this telephone is a POTS phone, plain old telephone service phone. Now another thing that people call this little telephone and other equipment that's owned by the customers, it's called CPE, customer provided equipment, or customer premise equipment. You can use any word you want, but CPE means the customer owns it, not the phone company. So CPE. The other thing we have here, which is kind of interesting, and it's kind of nice to illustrate just on a house, because when we talk later about businesses, it's a little more complicated than a house. But right on the side of the house here, there's a little connection, and you're going to see this in every building has some sort of connection to the phone company. And this little connection is called the MPO, the minimum point of entry. MPO, minimum point of entry. It's also sometimes called the demarc, as in demarcation, that the end of the phone company's responsibility ends there. The wiring inside this house, in 99% of the time, is the responsibility of the customer. And of course, he also has his own phones, equipment responsibility, unless you're still renting from the phone company. I heard a figure, I think about a year ago, that there's still over 1 million people in the United States that have dial telephones, you know, they're dialing telephones. I don't know why they'd still have them. Tell you the truth, I did away with my home phone a couple of years ago because I got a cell phone, my wife has a cell phone. Why do I need another phone in my house? So to save 20 bucks a month, I said forget it, had the phone turned off, and we were happy with that. Things change and technology changes. So I've given you some things here, how the phone company attaches to your house. The fact of the matter that this right here, that this attachments right here tells you who has what responsibility. It is a responsibility of the phone company from that device back to their office. It's your responsibility from that device inside the house. Now sometimes you can pay the phone company to go in and take it all the way to your phone and to install it there. It's still your responsibility. It's still the responsibility of the owner. And if you have a problem, they'll also research the problem. Sometimes they'll charge you, sometimes they won't. The difference between, let's say, an independent person working on your phone or your cabling or something like that compared to the phone company is every month the phone company charges you a service fee. And in a lot of cases, in most cases, that covers the maintenance on what they do. So they're able to offer you a deal, $50 to check your phone. Where if you call out a telephone guy, it's going to be $150 to check your phone, because he doesn't get to charge you every month. So the cost is actually realized there. That's actually the real cost when someone has to come out to your house and check to see why your telephone's not ringing right. But remember, up to that point, that's the phone company responsibility, and they should be looking at that for free if you don't have dial tone on your phone. Now, if you're a business, not only is it called minimum point of entry or DMARC or anything else, this connection is called RJ21X. Now, not everyone has an RJ21X. There's other ones, but this is the most popular. And it's connected to that box out there. And we're going to, a little later, we're going to go out and look at an RJ21X at a real MPO, at a real DMARC, and you're going to actually see what it is. And it's just the name of the attachment here that the phone company attaches to. RJ means registered jack. But anytime you say RJ21X, it's not the type of jack that plugs into a wall where you plug in an outlet, but it is a difference between the phone company responsibility and the businesses, and it's usually at a business location that has multiple phone numbers and multiple phone circuits. And we're going to talk a little later about the difference between a loop start and a ground start, a T1 and a PRI and a BRI, and how they're all different, and a DSL. We'll also talk about a DSL and how that works. But for now, we have to get down to basics. So this is what it looks like for a house. Okay, so right now we're outside the building, and this is the MPO, minimum point of entry, for this commercial building here. It's also the DMARC, you know, it's the same name, meaning the same thing. And what we're going to do is we're going to open it up here and take a look at what we have here. So first of all, we have this thing called a backboard. This is the backboard, this actual wood that sits out there. Keep that door open. And this is the phone system box that's owned by the phone company. It's just, there's no circuits in here or anything else. It's just wires. And it's fed by this wire right here. Notice it says network cable. And if you also notice, it says MPO, minimum point of entry. So this cable is your minimum point of entry. This is your minimum point of entry. And then from there, the cables come out and they go to what is called an RJ21X. This should have a little door on it. A little red door is normally what you find on this, and it just doesn't have one. Then it goes from here, it goes over these 25 pair of cables into the building. So the circuits come up here, into here, over to here, into the building. Where the responsibility of this circuit ends is right on this side of this block. It's a split 66 block, and it's a 21X. Now this signifies a special circuit, usually a T1 or a PRI, so I don't mess with that. Same thing over here. But these are your CO lines, your basic CO lines. And a lot of times it's written right here, and it looks a little faded, but some of them are written in there so you can see them. And the reason why these things have loops in them, this is a proper way to do it. You keep them loose and you put the loops in them. At the same time, you put these things up here called mushrooms, and they hold the cable. The best thing to do is always feed your house cable up from the bottom, always feed your cross connect across the top. This is the house cable. It's called house cable. It's actually not a house, but it's the cable that goes into the building. So this is owned by the customer. So this is customer provided equipment, and this is the responsibility of the customer. Of course, you could always pay their phone company to troubleshoot it for you if you'd like, but this is the responsibility of the owner of the building or the occupant of the building. Over here, what we have, all these wires, and these are not messy. These are in here actually nice and neat. This is called cross-connect cable right here. And what it means by cross-connect is you have a panel in here, and it connects the panel in here to this panel right here. So it cross-connects. And these are always one pair wires. You can see them here, one pair. They're twisted together very tightly, but they're one pair together. And one of the things you notice here is if they put a little loop in here, and this is on purpose. So if you take this and you wiggle, see I'm wiggling the cable up here, and that means I can find the cable here, and watch this up here. You see? I can verify that that's the cable I'm pulling. I could read what it goes to, and then I can take it down here and I can pull and I can see it goes right into here. So that's how you trace the cable when it's part of what's called a cross connect. This is a cross connect. All these cables here, part of a cross connect. This is the in-house cables right here. This is the phone company, MPO, things like that, special circuits. Over here is actually the, if I'm right, this is the cable company. Cable company now sells dial tone, as you know. So this is the cable company here. And if you notice, we also have grounding. See the grounding lugs right here? So you have a lot of grounding. Down here where the cable goes into the ground, it's actually been blocked off. And you want that blocked off down here because you don't want dirt falling in there, you don't want rodents getting in there, things like that. So they actually blocked it off. This is the cable going into the building, and that's blocked off also. It stops the mice from getting into the building, things like that. A good thing here is this is a pull rope. So if someone else has to pull in more cable, the rope is right there. So what they do is they pull in the cable, then as they pull in the cable, they attach the rope at the other end, rope and cable. So when they get the cable here, they have still another pull string here. We call it pull string, but in this case it's actually a serious rope. And so these big ones go out to the street. The smaller ones go into the building. And you can see this goes into the building. This is attached to the other end, so if you need to pull more cable into the MPO, that's how you would do it. A special circuit. This is a test set that the phone company uses down here. Right here, this is the test set. They put their butt set on there and they're able to use this for each of the circuits inside the box. It makes it very quick for them, but it's really there's no electronics there. That's basically an MPO. Now the thing you got to remember is, if you're in charge of your MPO, like we are in this building, you want to lock these doors, because remember, your alarm system goes through these lines. Unless you have a wireless alarm, some of the newer alarms have cell service. So if you cut this wire, it uses a cell service and calls out. But you don't want someone coming in here in the middle of the night and cutting these wires and then breaking into your building. So you definitely want to close this off and lock it up. Now, one of the nice things about this area is this is a fairly new area, so all the cable is going to be underneath the ground. So you're going to see little stickers like this. You know, you call that number if you have questions about the underground cable before you start digging. So if you have any type of responsibility to dig around a commercial building, you should be calling the phone company first and asking them to identify their lines. Of course, you also have the gas company and you have water and things like that. But the phone company will come out and most likely not charge you for this. They will actually mark on the ground with spray paint that it fades after about 3 months, but they'll mark on the ground where that cable is. So if you're digging anywhere near it, you know where their cable is. If you break that cable, you dig through that cable, you're going to pay to replace it, and it's not cheap. So let's go out to the street and take a look at the other area. Before we go out there, I just want to show you, this is the address, and it says 1.1. That identifies this as the first entry into the building. We use the .1 system to identify what's the difference between a main distribution frame and an intermediate distribution frame called the IDF. So MDF, IDF. Again, we have a lock. We're going to put the lock on when we're all done. Let's go out to the street, take a look at what the phone company has out here. So that thick, heavy cable that came out of the ground originates here. Sometimes this is called the B box. I don't know why it's called the B box. Again, you're going to have to ask the phone company. This is out of my preview. I don't deal with anything beyond this. This, of course, is used for the cable company that bring their dial tone in. And that big box is the electrical. One of the nice things about being in a new complex, in most places, not all, is we don't have any telephone poles around. So there's nothing to knock down. No one can hit them and knock down, and we lose service and everything else. But so that makes it nice. Everything is underground, and it should be there for 100 years without any problems. But if we have a problem, what's going to happen is the telephone guy is going to come here first, and he's going to use what's called a butt set. And that's what we're going to look at next. What is a butt set? What does it do? Why you should have one. And then if he doesn't get dial tone there at the main distribution frame, right, or the MPO, he's going to come out here and check for dial tone here. And then if he doesn't get dial tone here, he's going to go down the street to the big frame, and he's going to check there. And if he doesn't have dial tone there, he's going to call back to his office, and he's going to ask why he doesn't have dial tone. They can switch pairs, everything else. They do all that. I do not. So now we're in that same building that we're just talking about with the main distribution frame is on the other side of this wall. And here down here, we have the cables coming out of that conduit that was sealed off at the other end. So we have our two heavy cables that we pulled through, and it goes up the wall. It's kind of hard to see here, but it goes up the wall and it goes to this backboard up here. And then it's distributed to the phone system, which is in another building, another portion of the building, and that's at the IDF. Okay, we're back now again, and I said I'd talk about butt sets. So here is a modern butt set. It's kind of an interesting device. First of all, what does a butt set, where did it get its name? I don't know. I really don't know. I think it means butt in. Some people says because it hangs on your tool belt in the back there, that it kind of bounces on your butt, so it's called a butt set. I don't know if anybody really knows, but in the industry, this is called a butt set. And it has, obviously, two wires. It has a nice hook that you hook on your belt. Of course, it has my initials on it, so my technicians don't assume it's theirs and walk off with it. It has some interesting capabilities. Remember out there I was talking about that 66 block, and I was talking about that MPO and how to test it? Well, if you look, this has two clips, and what you do is you clip that on that 66 thing. You turn the switch here, and it turns it on, and you can hear dial tone if it's working. And then, of course, you can go to the other side, turn the switch on, and see if you can hear dial tone also. Also has your Dtmf, so I can make calls, things like that. This is a really good butt set, probably costing in a range of $500–600. Not cheap. You could probably get them cheaper. I really like Harris, and I've had this probably for 10 years. It is an excellent piece of equipment and very necessary if you're going to work on phones. Now, one of the interesting things here is it has what's called a bed of nails. And so what you can do is you can actually take a piece of wire. Of course, the wire is going to be thinner than my finger, and you can put it right on the bed of nails, and then this will go right through the insulation of the wire. Same thing here, right through the insulation, and you can butt into the conversation, and you can hear. In fact, just to give you a little side note, I guess I was about 10 years old. I found this on the side of the road. An AT&T tech has been missing it for 45 years. Found it on the side of the road, and it has two clips. And I had an older sister that drove me nuts, who spent for hours on the phone talking to her boyfriend. And there's a little switch here that says monitor, which turns off the mic, and I could sit there and eat potato chips and hear everything she said to her boyfriend, and then I could blackmail her. So this was a great device when you're 10, 12 years old. But it also taught me a lot about the phone system. You can connect this anywhere and make phone calls. And of course, back then, they didn't have Dtmf, they had Rotary. And there's your Rotary Dial. For those who are youngins who don't know what a Rotary Dial is, you just go like that, you dial the number. You can actually have a conversation on this. I bet you can still do that on this. These things are built rock solid. It's heavy. And you could have a conversation on it. Of course, the newer ones are a lot better. You can do a lot. It has speed dial, it has redial. It can check the line. I can go both ways. I have a little switch on here that I can do pulse dialing. This is pulse dialing. Remember I told you that, that as you turn it, for each time it comes back, so it's coming back for each of those holes, it clicks once. And of course, needs a little bit of lubricant here to make it go faster. It's not really going very fast. It's been a long time since I used this. But that's pulse styling. That's all it ever did. Anyway. This is your DTMF. So you have pulse or tone setting on here. Most people keep it on tone. I don't know what else to tell you. You can listen, you can talk. It's a wonderful device. It's also a speakerphone, which is really nice because if you hang it up in the phone room and you connect it and you're looking for a line, you can hit your speed dial and just listen and write down the phone number as the phone company reads back to you what line you're connected to. It's the system that does that, by the way. There's no human that actually does that. Or as you're doing work there, you can talk to another technician back and forth and they can hear you and it frees up your hand. So it's a really nice device. Again, this is Jim Gibson with CableSupply.com, and you have just seen our first installment in telecommunications. It's not only been history, it's also been some technical things. Please watch our other installments. You're going to learn from beginning to end about telecommunications. We're going to have another series later on about data communications, the internet, things like that. So thank you for watching. If you have any comments, you want us to speak on any other issues, please email us. Please let us know. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on YouTube. And thanks for watching. Hi, this is Jim with CableSupply.com. Hi, this is Jim from CableSupply.com. Hi, this is Jim with CableSupply.com, and today I'm going to show you how to cut a hole in the drywall.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to this YouTube installment of CableSupply.com.